you guys. The tea is easy. Like, isn't that a great option instead of having to do the dandelion greens all the time? Grace says she's leaning. And Morgan's here. Hey, Morgan. Awesome. Yes. All right, you guys. So we'll go ahead and dive in tonight. So as usual, let's go ahead and start with just a recap of where we are. So we're starting week 3. You guys are at the halfway point. So give yourselves a high five. Morgan and Louie, you can high five each other since you're together. So you've reached the halfway point. There's only 2 more weeks to go, essentially. And I just want to recap of what we kind of talked about this past week in week 2. So if you guys haven't watched the week 2 recording, make sure you go back and do that, because we talked about really dialing in your diet more and focusing on what's called the metabolic type developed by Bill Walcott, which is basically figuring out, what is your, excuse me, perfect ratio of macronutrients, so proteins, carbs, and fats that your body basically runs best off of. And that's going to deliver the just perfect amount of nutrients for you to promote the cleansing process or the detoxing even more. So if you guys haven't done that yet, the action items that came out of that week 2 webinar were to download the food language log that's on there and start just tracking some of the responses that your body's giving you about the foods that you're eating, so that you can figure out exactly what is your perfect ratio of nutrients. And I would love to see, as you guys explore that a little bit, you can post that up on the Facebook page with any questions that you've had or any like ahas or insights that you're finding about that too. Most people tend to be more of a protein type or do better with protein, and they don't necessarily realize that. So that might be a big one that you guys find for yourselves. And then we also talked about making time to metabolize and de-stressing specifically around meal times. When we're stressed out on a regular basis, our body is then constantly pumping out a hormone called cortisol, and cortisol kind of shuts down our metabolic power because it's your flight or fight response. So when you're stressed out, your body is worried about escaping whatever the stress is, and it's then reserving that energy and all of that blood flow out to like your legs and your arms for quick moving and your brain for quick thinking, and it's not allowing you to properly digest your food. So if we want to enhance the power of our food, we want to focus on de-stressing around meal times. And then the other main thing that we talked about in the week 2 webinar was honoring hunger and fullness. So preparing and planning to eat when you actually reach a hunger level of 2 on a scale of 1 to 10, so that you're not waiting past that level 2 to like a 5 or even a 10, when you're then going to be so starving or hungry that you're willing to eat anything that's, not within the cleanse guidelines, or that's going to make you feel bad. And then on the flip side of that is also acknowledging fullness and eating to a level of being satiated and nourished at 7 on that scale of 1 to 10 versus exceeding that and not overloading your body with too much food and making it harder for you to digest. So those are the 3 main things for you guys to take away from week 2 to start working on. Again, I would love to see you guys post up on the Facebook group what types of things you're noticing from this, ahas and insights that you're having, or even questions about it as you guys start to play around with some of that stuff. And then, of course, we all checked in today, or if you haven't checked in yet, I posted up on the Facebook group. We need to be tracking your points. So don't forget to be writing those down and do your weekly check-in so that I can see who has the most points and I can give away the weekly prize. I have a couple of fun things still in the bag here to give away, so I want to make sure that we get those out to people, and make sure you're earning your points for being gluten, dairy, sugar, soy, alcohol-free when you can on a daily basis. Still focusing on eating those raw beets, grapefruits, and dandelions. And, getting your 30 minutes of exercise in and your water intake. And tonight we're actually going to talk about sleep is going to be one of our main topics. A couple of you have been posting that getting to bed by 10 p.m. has been a little bit of a struggle. So tonight we're going to talk about why that's so important, and hopefully that'll be a motivation to make that shift happen. And then we were just mentioning, doing your liver flushing, castor oil packs, and of course, making sure that you're tracking your points for the weekly webinars. So even though I didn't have a live webinar, if you guys are watching the recording, you're still going to get points for that. And there's like a little 2 or 3 question quiz to take when you do that webinar to kind of prove that you attended, since we didn't do it live. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into tonight's content. And like I said, the first thing that we're going to talk about is sleep. And this is a huge game changer, you guys. When I talk about sleep with my one-on-one clients, this can totally take their whole world upside down in a positive way. It makes such a big change in their energy levels and how they're feeling and their weight loss and so many different things. And we're going to talk about essential sleep tonight. So good quality sleep is essential for the different phases of detoxing, because your body basically is kind of has its, think of it like it's on an auto timer to do its own restoration and repair. And it's set on this timer based upon kind of the sun and the moon cycles. So some of you might know of this, the term called the circadian rhythm. And your circadian rhythm is basically what regulates kind of your sleep cycles. And that is in tune with the sun. So when the sun comes up, that's a signal to our body that we should be awake. And when the sun goes down, that's a signal to our body that we should be asleep, essentially. If you think about our ancestors, so long ago, when they didn't have as much electricity available to them as we do now, they were sleeping as soon as almost the sun went down, or they were not staying up very late. And if they did, it was always by candlelight or some low lights. And now we're exposed to light all the time. So that exposure to light can really throw off your circadian rhythm. So we want to go back to some of the old ways of doing things. But basically, that light or exposure to light is what sets your internal clock. And if we were following the moon and the sun cycles like we should be, then our optimal sleep time is really between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. because the sun on average or so usually comes up around 6, and then it's starting to get to its darkest point at like 10 through the evening time. And actually, critical sleep time is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And this is exactly why this is one of the things to focus on for the cleanse, and why you guys are earning points for this is because during this time, your body is scheduled to do that restoration and repair. So during this time, it's releasing something called human growth hormone. And that is released to help do that physiological repair. And it also helps with anti-aging too. So this HGH is what it's known as, or human growth hormone. It helps to restore the adrenal glands from stress, which helps to boost your energy levels. It balances your hormones all overall. It also promotes weight loss, and it's where you get your maximum replenishment. I mean, think about your car. If you were able to take your car into the auto shop to get a tune-up every single night, you would be getting amazing gas mileage all the time. Your car would never break down on you. And that's exactly what your body is basically getting every single night. If you're sleeping between that time of 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., it's that critical repair. It's like taking it into the shop to get a tune-up every single day so that it can get up the next morning and basically run as efficient as possible. And it's incredible once I have clients start sleeping during these hours, like the big changes that start shifting. So I've literally have had clients that have, once they shift over to a 10 p.m. bedtime, I've had a client tell me before, when he goes to bed at 10 p.m., he wakes up, no alarm needed in the morning, feels very refreshed and really energized and ready to take on the day, versus if he's asleep by 10:15, so the difference of just 15 minutes, he practically feels hungover the next morning. And I've even noticed this with myself, and I know there's some people on the line that I've worked with or who've done the cleanse before who've experienced this before also, and they can attest to like how much of a difference it makes when you're going to bed at 10 p.m. You will feel so much more rested in the morning time when you get up. So the thing about this time is that it cannot be replaced if it's missed. So if you miss your 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. time, your body doesn't necessarily shift its automatic clock into when it's doing that tune-up on itself. You're basically missing that window of opportunity. So no matter how much you sleep, like if you go to bed at 11 or 12 and sleep 10 hours, it's not going to be the same as if you were to go to bed at 10 p.m. and then wake up at even 4 or 6. So for every hour of sleep that you get before 12 p.m., it's worth 2 hours. So if you go to bed at 9 o'clock, that's actually even better for you. So this is exactly why it's super critical. And you guys, I really want you to try and focus on this. I know a lot of you said this is your goal for this coming week 3, is actually focus on this if you're not. And for those of you who are and getting closer to that time, make a mental note of the changes that you're experiencing or the differences that you notice when you do get to bed by 10 p.m. and how much more refreshed your body feels in the morning. So if you're having some trouble with sleep, here's some of the things that I want you to kind of look at or consider also. So some of the common sleep disturbances that I see with clients and that we talk about and coach around is people who wake up in the middle of the night. I'll have a lot of people who say, well, I'm going to bed early, but I typically wake up at least once in the middle of the night. And they usually say the excuse or the reason is that they have to go to the bathroom. And I'm not necessarily a believer in that. And the reason is that typically when you're waking up between 2 to 4 a.m., that's usually an indication that your blood sugar has dropped. And so what's happening is when your blood sugar drops, your body is responding to that, and you're waking up. You're not necessarily feeling hungry, but your first initial response is to go to the bathroom because you're awake, which is what most of us do first thing in the morning when we get up anyways. We're all go to the bathroom and empty our tank after sleeping for such a long time. So this is where, again, dialing in your diet and figuring out the right ratio of nutrients can be really helpful for you guys. If you're experiencing this waking up between 2 and 4 a.m. and that blood sugar drop, then that means that you probably need a little bit more protein in your diet, specifically in whatever your evening meals are. So if it's, if you're eating dinner a little bit later, then you want to beef up your protein portion in your dinner. If you have dinner a little bit earlier, then you can have some type of balanced protein snack about an hour or so before bed. I always have a protein snack before bed. I usually will eat dinner, somewhere between 6 and 7:30. And then I'm having a protein snack anywhere from 8:30 to 9:30 before I go to bed. So I want to throw the myth out the window that it's bad to eat before bed. That's not true. It's not going to make you fat. It's all about balancing your blood sugar. And when your blood sugar is balanced, that's what promotes weight loss. So I've listed a couple of examples of different types of protein snacks that you guys could have before bed. Something as simple as, even a scoop or a spoonful of some type of organic peanut butter that has a higher fat content and protein. That's going to help to balance things out. You can also do some type of protein shake. So again, we're avoiding dairy for the cleanse. So you could do a vegan protein shake, like a rice protein or a pea protein. There's some really great brands. You could do a J-Rob brand of egg white protein shake, something chocolatey. You can add some peanut butter to it, make it feel like a milkshake. Those Dale's bars that you guys got samples of, those make for really great desserts and protein type of snacks before bed. That's one of my favorite desserts. And in your guys' recipe guides, I gave you the recipe for the oatmeal, the chocolate chip type of cookies, and I actually will add protein powder to those, and that's in the recipe too, so that it beefs up the protein content, and that will be a good snack that you could have before bed. I have some clients who like to eat beef jerky before bed. That's not really my thing. I'd rather have something sweet. So you guys can get really creative with protein type of shakes or different types of protein bars that are gluten, dairy, sugar, soy free, and those would be great snacks before bed. And then if you're having trouble falling asleep, some of the things that you want to focus on are things like unplugging from your devices, your computers, cell phones, iPads before bed, because those are all really stimulating for us. They're not only stimulating our mind, so it's constantly, spinning essentially, but they're also exposing us to light. And again, remember that light is what can affect your body's circadian rhythm and letting it know or not know that it's ready for bedtime. And that kind of goes along with the second bullet point here, is reducing your exposure to light 1 hour before bed. So if you guys have dimmers on any of your lights in your household, it would be really great to go ahead and dim your lights before bedtime. If you don't have dimmers, like I don't have any dimmers in my house, I just turn off as many lights as possible. So if I am sitting and maybe watching TV or something like that, I'll just leave like one light in the kitchen on versus having the living room light, the dining room light, the kitchen light, everything on. And I try to dim it. I also have some like Himalayan salt lamps that have a low light to them. So you could always get some type of low light that you can put on too. If you want some light, you could go by candlelight and go old school if you wanted. But ultimately reducing that light exposure before bed is really helpful. Something that you can do on your computers too is there's different applications that you can download that will actually dim your computer screen or give it like a rose color at nighttime. You can wear blue blocker glasses. Those are some other trendy things out there in the health industry that all help before bed too. And then ultimately, like turning your room into basically a sleeping cave. You could get some blackout curtains if you want to, or just like double up with making sure that you have, blinds or shades and then closing over with curtains to make it as dark as possible. You want to kind of check and see like if your room faces a street that has lights that are shining, those street lights are shining into your bedroom, like blocking out any of that kind of light would be helpful. Even little things like alarm clocks and cable boxes or any kind of devices that you guys have in your room that are emitting little blue lights or little red lights, covering those up. And you can do that, not that you need to get rid of those things, but you can cover them up with just some black electrical tape, which is really helpful. I actually will travel with black electrical tape in my bag so that if I'm staying in a hotel room, then I can just put the tape over any lights that are in the hotel room, like the thermostats or the alarm clocks or the refrigerators, whatever it might be. And it's interesting, you guys will notice that once you start to really black out your rooms, when you sleep in a room that has light, how sensitive you are to it, because we're not just affected by light through our eyes. Light hitting our skin also affects our body and lets us know that it's maybe not bedtime, or that it tricks the body into thinking that the sun is still up. And then a big one I think that's really helpful, that's been hugely helpful for me, because I think most of us use our cell phones as an alarm clock these days anyways, is I know the iPhone definitely has this, and I'm sure any Android or whatever phone you have has this too, there's a do not disturb feature. So you can go in, and I have my do not disturb feature set for 9:30 all the way till 6 p.m. So it completely silences my phone. It's different than putting your phone on silent. It doesn't even vibrate or buzz. So it's not disturbing you in the middle of the night, or, at nighttime as you're trying to go to bed, it can be distracting as well. And with the great thing I think about it is it also has an emergency feature. So if there is an emergency, if somebody calls more than twice, it actually breaks the do not disturb lock on there so that they can get through and still call you. Because if you guys are like me, I don't have a house phone. My cell phone is my phone. So, and kind of the essential rule of thumb to know if your room is dark enough is that if your hand is about 6 to 12 inches away from your face, you shouldn't be able to see it. So if you can still see your hand when it's 6 to 12 inches away from your face, and that means that there's still a lot of light coming in there, and you want to kind of search out and source where it's coming from and see if you guys can cover it up. And those things will turn you into a super sleeper. So these are things to work on this coming week. So let's talk about toxic exposure, because you guys have done so much work so far on kind of starting to clean up your body internally. And this is going to be one of the key elements to help you continue to maintain the results that you guys are getting as you're doing the cleanse. So remember, one of the ways that we got to this point where our body needs to be cleansed and detoxified is because we are exposed to so many toxins in our environment. I love kind of this is just like a jaw-dropping quote from Laura Adler here, where she says that over the past 50 years, over 84,000 synthetic chemicals have been introduced in the US, and almost none of these have been tested for safety at all. If you guys think about how many new products are coming out onto the market, those things can contain all kinds of different chemicals, and they have a positive intention, like things like our furniture and stuff like that is coated with a fire retardant. So of course there's a positive intention for it. It's to protect it from going up in flames and taking our house down, but ultimately it has a negative impact on our body. And a lot of these chemicals are starting to be termed, they're called obesogens, which are essentially foreign chemical compounds that disrupt the normal development and balance of the metabolism. which in some cases, and actually a lot of cases, is leading to obesity. So these obesogens or toxins that we're exposed to, they disrupt our hormone balance. They overload our liver, which is what's creating this higher need for us to do some cleansing on an annual or semi-annual basis. And we touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but the most common like toxic exposures that we come encounter with, or like most frequently, are stuff that are in our immediate kind of environment or personal space. So things like your personal care products, like deodorants, have a tendency to have a high amount of aluminum in them, for example. So you want to find a deodorant that is aluminum free. Or the soaps that you're using, the face washes, toothpaste can have a lot of fluoride and different types of things in it. Your makeup, if you think about how synthetic makeup is, ladies, it's absolutely disgusting if you do some research on it. Like makeup is just, we might as well put on plastic masks all day long. So that kind of stuff, like taking a deep dive look at what's actually in some of those personal care products that you're using on a regular basis. And I think, of course, most people know about house cleaning supplies. And if you don't, this is another huge one too. I had a client who just contacted me the other day, and she was saying how she got nauseous and like vomiting sick because she was cleaning her bathroom using Clorox, and she was so sensitive to it. She has a lot of health stuff that we're working on, but that's the effect that it can have on your body if you're especially locked in a bathroom where there's not a lot of air circulation. So taking a look at your personal or your house cleaning products and seeing where you can reduce your toxin exposure there. And then obviously water and air are two other big ones that we can't avoid, that we come in contact with all the time necessarily, but we do have the ability to control some of it. So with your water, we talked about in the beginning the importance of making sure that you're drinking filtered or spring water. So absolutely avoiding drinking water out of the tap. I think I mentioned on, it was like the kickoff webinar or something, we talked a little bit about this, and, the Flint, Michigan water issues that they're having, and down in Mississippi where basically the pipes are eroding and all of that is creating dirty, nasty water. Well, we don't know what the pipes in our city look like and how much they're eroded or they're not until it actually pours brown out of the sink. And so if that's just questionable, it's always safer to drink filtered or some type of spring water. And when it comes to, the air quality, making sure that you're getting outside and getting fresh air, it's actually better for you to get fresh air than it is for you to be enclosed in your house with the recirculated air. So those are our main exposure points. So let's talk about how you can reduce your exposure. And I mentioned some of this on the previous slide a little bit, but these are things that we are kind of focusing on in the cleanse. And obviously cleansing regularly is a big piece of this, because like we were just saying, is that you can't really avoid some of the toxins. Like if you guys work in a corporate building or you live in a condo complex, like you can't necessarily avoid the fact that the building is laced with fire retardant or other kind of chemicals to protect against fires or whatever might happen. You have to go to work every day. So cleansing on a semi-annual or annual basis can help to reduce the impact of that exposure. And then it's all about taking a look at controlling what you can. So this is where in the cleanse we're focusing on, we talked a lot in the beginning about focusing on eating organic, because that's where some of your toxin exposure comes from too, like minimizing the pesticides and herbicide exposure that you guys get from foods. And that's with not only your produce, but also with your meats, making sure that you're getting organic meats that aren't pumped full of hormones or additives. I just talked about, drinking natural spring or purified water and never drinking from the tap. That's something that you guys definitely can control. And then ditching the plastic containers and water bottles. So this is where we can come across a lot of different toxins, and especially if you guys are microwaving foods in plastic, that releases some of those toxins even more into your food. So you want to make sure that if you are using plastic, you want to look for it to be BPA free and paraben free. And it's just better if you can switch over to glass or stainless steel. So I know like at places like Costco and Target, you can get all kinds of glassware that for, to go food, or if you're taking food or leftovers, whatever you're using it for. So I will put, like, we have a bunch of glassware in my household, And I put all my leftovers in glassware and pre-portion it out, and then I can just stick it in the oven to reheat it. And that helps to reduce toxin exposure from microwaves also. And then stainless steel is another option for like your guys' water bottles, the things that you're cooking with, like that is a great avenue to go, is stainless steel too. And when it comes to air, I was mentioning to get outside and get fresh air daily. And then for your home and office, you can get something called a HEPA air filter. And these are actually really inexpensive. If you guys hop on Amazon or even go to like Walmart or something, these can range anywhere from $25 to maybe $100, depending on how big you want to get it and how much you want to invest in them. But they can make a huge difference in the air quality. When I was working in the corporate space, we had moved into a new building, and I was really sensitive to some of the just like the chemicals that were in the building. And I got one of these HEPA air filters, and it helped me and prevented me from getting like headaches. So they can be super effective, and they can filter out almost like one HEPA air filter can filter out a whole home almost. And then when it comes to your guys' personal care products, here's a few resources for you. There's a nonprofit organization called the Environmental Working Group, and they have so many great resources on their site. A bunch of consumer guides where you guys can check out things like your household cleaners. So they have a database of all of these household cleaners. You can type them in or scan them. Even with a barcode, you can download the apps for these resources. And they'll give you a toxicity rating on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most toxic. And what you want to aim for is that your products are like a score of a 4 or below. That would be optimal, so that you really are reducing a lot of your toxin exposure. And not that you guys need to necessarily go and throw all your stuff out tomorrow and spend money on new stuff, but as you run out of things, just replace them with better things. Aim to buy biodegradable and environmental friendly cleaning products, and then switch over to some organic makeup, and start to buy better shampoos and conditioners and different types of deodorants. And if you guys want any type of specific recommendations for brands, you can post that up on the Facebook page, and I can give you some great brands that I use, like for makeup and cleaning supplies and all that kind of stuff. And then one of the tools that I'm giving you this week, so that you guys can check your kind of toxin exposure, is the toxins checklist. So you guys can download that. I'll post it up with the recording for you to access tomorrow. And it's basically a checklist, so you can kind of go through these different categories of toxin exposure that we're talking about tonight and see what your score is, like how many things are you being exposed to. And then that'll be a good indication of what you can then do to improve, and you can start making some changes from there, essentially. So, and you can reevaluate, like you can do the toxins checklist right now, and then maybe in a couple months after you've been working on things, go through and do it again and compare your score to see how you're improving. And it's like a nice measurement tool that you guys can have. And then if you guys want to take your cleansing to the next level, so although you're not going to get any points for this kind of stuff, but I wanted to give you guys some new things to try out now that you've kind of settled into your routine of cleansing. And these can be super helpful for even after you finish out the cleanse, like stuff that's going to continue just to enhance your body's natural cleansing ability. Here's some really easy, simple things that you guys can kind of work into your routine as you start to evolve and make progress. And one of these things is called dry body brushing. So you can get a natural bristle brush. You can find these on Amazon, or they carry them at, Whole Foods and Sprouts sometimes too. Or you can find them on, you can Google some type of natural bristle brush. Try to say that 5 times. And what it does is when you do this, you basically are brushing your skin with this brush, and it's helping to move your lymphatic system. And remember, we talked about that in week 1, that your lymphatic system is basically the body's sewage system that helps to move out toxins. It can be really helpful if you're even feeling sick, to help move that fluid through your body. And it also helps to reduce cellulite, which I'm sure everybody loves to hear. It can be very like just therapeutic. It's easy to do. Maybe it will take you like 2 to 5 minutes to do some body brushing before you like hop in the shower. And it makes your skin really, really soft too, because you're brushing off all of that dry skin or dead old skin. If you guys aren't doing yoga yet, this is another great thing that you can incorporate into your routine. Essentially, you would get points for this because it would count as your 30 minutes of exercise. But certain yoga poses actually activate the liver and other detoxification systems. Like if you guys have some instructors that they might mention this and they'll talk about, oh, this pose is, squeezing the liver and the gallbladder, or it's helping to flush out your lymphatic system. I know my yoga teacher talks about that. And it also helps to reduce the cortisol levels. It helps to balance hormones, and it helps you to sweat. If you guys are taking a hot or a heated yoga class, remember, sweating and detoxifying through the skin, like your skin is your largest organ, is one of the things that we talked about too. That's why we're focusing on exercise. Massage and acupuncture are both really relaxing ways that you guys can promote the cleansing process even more. Both of these kind of stimulate the immune system, the lymphatic system, and circulation. And with acupuncture, you can get certain treatments that can be specific to detoxing and digestion. So they can work off of the nerve pathways or meridians and really target like the liver and the gallbladder and the lymphatic system, which is really cool. So those are little treats that you can add in. Like I belong to Massage Envy. It's an accountability component for me, because if I'm paying a monthly membership for it, then I'm guaranteed to go and get my massage every month. And it's pretty inexpensive. So you guys can look into doing something like that. And then infrared saunas are really awesome. They're kind of something that's new coming out in the market. Some of the big gyms are starting to install them. You can go to different spas and wellness centers that have them. You can get one in your home. We have one in our house. And they're really great for helping to activate the detoxification system as well. So kind of an infrared sauna basically is different. It's a dry sauna, so it's not a wet or humid sauna. And what it does is it heats the body from the inside out, basically, or the outside in. So it's getting into the internal parts, versus when you sit into like a moist sauna, it doesn't necessarily heat all the way into the inside like that. So the infrared sauna really helps to open up the pores, and it increases sweat elimination increases sweat and elimination of toxins. And if you guys do some research on this, you'll find that people, especially who've had exposure to heavy metals and experience heavy metal toxicity, they've used infrared saunas to help reduce the accumulation of heavy metals out of their system. And just for doing it for 20 minutes a couple days a week can have a really big impact on helping you to detox that stuff out. So again, now that you guys have kind of settled in with the diet and everything, like, although you may not get points for this, I would encourage you guys to look where you can kind of level up in your cleansing abilities and see where you can work this stuff into your routine to help you maintain your results long term and even enhance the results that you're still working on now. So that wraps it up for this evening. I'd love to see if you guys have any questions on here. If you do, go ahead and type them into the question box. It can be anything that we covered tonight, or if you guys have questions, like if you're getting ready to do the liver flush or anything like that, let me know and I can address those now for you. There are some comments on here, like Louie said, I've definitely noticed a difference in both my energy levels after meals and my ability to wake up in the morning. That's awesome, Louie. Great job. And Beverly, you asked about protein snacks. I answered that question already for you guys. Anybody else with any other questions this evening, or anything else that you want to go over? So next week will be our last webinar that we're going to have on Thursday. It'll be live. You'll have 1 week left after that. But next week, we're going to be basically talking about re-entry into reality. And we're also going to be talking about kind of the mindful or the mindset of cleansing. So one of We're going to have a guest, I think, appearance from Molly Hamill, who is a meditation Reiki light life coach. And she's a great expert in talking about how our energy and our mindset can affect our detoxing ability and helping to release toxins and just improve our health overall. And we'll talk about that reentry into reality. Like, what does life look like post cleanse? How you guys will maybe go about reintroducing foods, and what's like realistic to set your sights on after completing these 4 weeks. And that'll help you guys as we kind of wrap up the challenge. So everybody's doing an awesome job. I guess there's no more questions this evening. Like I said, I'd love to see what you guys are experiencing as you dial in your diet, work on reducing stress, honoring hunger and fullness, cleaning out toxins. So post all that stuff up in the Facebook group this coming week. All right, you guys, have a great evening, and I'll chat with you next Thursday.